Are back and we are bringing you guys more quality sports content for your Monday. We start the episode off by discussing who is really the greatest college football player of all time. And then we debate whether Mike Leach has already placed himself on the hot seat even before the season has started. We then debate who we would want our quarterback to be out of three of the biggest names in college football. And we wrap up the episode with another round of Dabo Swinney versus Nick Saban and their latest saga about Apple Watches. We have a full slate ahead of us, so let's kick it off. As you guys know, the Blue Bloods have been providing you guys with some March Sadness brackets due to the cancellation of March Madness. You know, you guys voted the 01 Miami Hurricanes as the greatest college football team of all time. But now we've moved on to who's the greatest player of all time. Today, the finals begin. As we're recording, the Final Four is currently happening. But we figured out we go ahead and give our opinions on who we would have voted for, who we think deserves this honor. So, Brandon, you kick it off, man. Who do you consider the greatest college football player of all time and why?
It shouldn't even be a debate right now. We're going to talk about Mr. Herschel Walker during this segment because that is the greatest college football player of all time. You want to talk about stats? Let's do that. So in his 3 seasons at Georgia, he rushed for nearly 5,300 yards. And he didn't have a season that was under 1,600 yards rushing. That was his freshman year. He ran for 1,616 yards. He averaged 6 yards a carry, 15 touchdowns. And he even caught 26 passes in his time at Georgia. And that was when passing to your running back was just unheard of in football, period. And so the things he did, the way, and these stats really don't even do him justice, by the way. But just the way that he carried himself, the way that he performed at Georgia, outstanding is an understatement. What do we see out of him? I mean, we saw plenty of awards go his way. We saw the SEC Player of the Year go to him, I think, all 3 years that he was in college. Not only that, he won the Heisman Trophy in 1982. That was his junior season. That was his last season in college. But I mean, he led the SEC in rushing in all 3 years that he was in college. I mean, if you watch this guy play, which obviously Zach and I didn't have the honor to do so, not in real time anyway. But if you went back and you saw this guy play, if you saw him play in real time, congrats. But even if you just had to go back and watch statistics, if you just had to go back and watch like old highlight videos of him play, I mean, it was just unreal the way that he carried the football. I mean, am I wrong?
No, he is also my pick. I want to go off and start by saying I really, really wanted to pick Bo Jackson as an Auburn fan, but I can't because Herschel Walker deserves this honor more than anyone. I mean, I know some people that I know listen to this podcast are going to say Jim Brown deserves this, this spot, and he's a legend. Don't get me wrong. Me and Brandon had Jim Brown as the number 2 seed in the bracket, and but I don't think I can. I don't think Brandon can either get over the fact that he played in the 50s, which was a different era of football with overall less talent and athleticism than there is today. And even in the 80s when Herschel and Bo Jackson played, and there's some other players you could throw in here, but for me, Walker is the greatest person to ever step on a football field in college football. And the biggest thing for me, you've already highlighted all his stats, all his awards. That's all fine and good, but something people overlook is how much he changed the culture of that Georgia program. People forget.
Yeah.
Herschel went the starter when he got there. I mean, when he was a true freshman, Herschel came in, I think it was 3 or 4 games into the season, and as soon as he was inserted in the lineup, that whole culture changed, and he led them all the way to the national championship when they were projected not even to win the SEC.
That was the last time Georgia did anything memorable, by the way. Shout out to our Georgia listeners.
You didn't have to be like that to them.
It took the greatest player of all time, the greatest college football player of all time, to do this for them.
And I mean, they had a chance to win it in 81, and 82 they were still really, really good. But I mean, Brandon, thinking back, how many times do you see a running back be the missing piece to a team?
I don't know. I mean, It's actually more common than you probably think.
I
I
mean,
feel
okay,
like you're
so
setting me up here.
no, it's really not. I mean, like you see it all the time where like, oh, Auburn was missing Cam Newton, LSU was missing Joe Burrow, Oklahoma was missing Baker Mayfield. I mean, there's and Tim Tebow taking Florida all the way. Alabama, as soon as they got Tua, unbelievable. Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence taking Clemson to new heights. You hardly ever see a team where their best player and their leaders are running back. And that's where I
That
was
is
getting
true.
at is that, like, how many teams have you seen that were bad or not bad? They were just mediocre. And you're like, if only you can get them a good running back, they'd be the best team in the country. I don't think anyone's ever looked at a team like that. Like, you look at Clemson this year, if you give them a running back, does that solve their problem? No, Travis Etienne is a serviceable player, but and he was the best player in college football for 3 years. And for me, I think he got snubbed of the Heisman his sophomore year. And this was at a time
Yeah.
where if you weren't a junior or senior, you weren't even supposed to be considered a Heisman candidate. And listen, Marcus Allen had a great year for USC. Uh, I'm not taking anything away from him. I just think Walker deserved that Heisman because his sophomore year was better than his junior year when he won the Heisman. I think he deserved it both years because he was a game changer and he made players around him better. And I don't think you could say that about any other running back in history. I mean, a running back making the team better, how does it doesn't even make sense. And you highlighted he led the SEC in rushing yards and touchdowns all 3 years, and he was top 10 in the country in those stats all 3 years for the country, in the NCAA. And Brandon, here's the thing that gets me: this guy in
Yeah.
his 3 year career, his first year, not even a full year, he set 41 Georgia school records, 16 SEC conference records, and 11 NCAA records in his 3 years at Georgia.
Yeah. It was outstanding. Like I said, I mean, it's just incredible watching this guy play.
I mean, this guy is something we may never see again, and he is, it's for me, the only person who's fully deserving of this honor. And I kind of wanted to speak on this a little bit, and chip in when you want, Brandon. But I mean, also looking back now that we know the mental health like struggle this kid was going through at his time at Georgia makes this run that he had for 3 years even more unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And then, I mean, to finish after his junior season at a time when if you wanted to go on to play professional football after your junior season, you had to go to the USFL, which is what he did. Um, I mean, the fact that he spent 3 years in college in a time where it was all, I mean, I don't want to say it was unheard of, but it was almost unheard of to only spend 3 years in college. He was just that good, and he knew he was that good. And that's why he went on to play for the USFL. He went on to play for the New Jersey Generals for 3 seasons after this.
Well, I mean, he also dominated the USFL. If you don't,
Oh, yeah.
in case you guys don't remember, I mean, he was the best player in the USFL, and some of our listeners might not, I guess, know about the USSL, but it wasn't a BS, AAF league. I mean, there were good players in the USFL, and Brandon, his last year in New Jersey, he rushed for 2,400 yards and 21 touchdowns. In 3 seasons, he rushed for over 5,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no denying that he was a great player throughout his career, but in my opinion, he was absolutely, I mean, just by leaps and bounds, the greatest player in college football history.
Yeah, and in case you guys don't know what we're referring to with his struggle with mental health and stuff, go check out his documentary. I believe is it a SEC
I think
special
so.
or 30 for
I
30, one
think
of
it
those
is.
things. It's either a SEC documentary or a 30 for 30. Go check it out. He developed dissociative identity disorder. He said that it's so bad that a different person won the Heisman. Like him in his being now can't remember winning the Heisman Trophy because of all
Yeah,
the abuse and bullying from his childhood, and the fact that he took all that and channeled it into such a great college career, for me, is what puts this over the top. Because I mean, I couldn't imagine being a true freshman at a time where true freshmen really weren't supposed to play and struggling with mental health issues and being the best player in college football.
no, absolutely not.
It's just unbelievable, guys. Keep voting though. It came down to some really, really good players. It came down to Jim Brown versus Bo Jackson, and it came down to Herschel Walker and Barry Sanders. And no offense to Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, or Bo Jackson, all three outstanding players. But in both of our opinion, Herschel Walker has to take the cake here.
Yeah, do
And
the right thing, guys.
yeah, don't screw up. Or as Brandon would say, don't screw up and vote wrong again. He's already y'all are
Yeah,
already on
again.
his hit list. On his hit list,
Oh yeah,
but
oh yeah. Just wait till quarantine's over.
he's coming, guys. He's coming. So we're gonna move on to our second segment of the day, and oh man, this is gonna be hard to talk about. So as you guys know, Mike Leach accepted the job at Mississippi State this offseason after a pretty successful run at Washington State. But he found himself in another not great situation last week. Leach is no stranger to controversial tweets, memes, etc., or statements, but he may have taken it a step too far last week. In case you guys do not know, Leach tweeted a photo of a woman knitting a noose and captioned the tweet, "After 2 weeks of quarantine with her husband, Gertrude decided to knit him a scarf." This led to multiple Mississippi State players to respond with various but overall unapproving tweets at Leach. And one of the players that was outspoken about this was Fabian Lovett, and he decided to enter the transfer portal this week as well. Um, Leach posted an apology on Twitter in which he said, quote, "He sincerely regrets if his choice of images in my tweets were found offensive. I had no intentions of offending anyone," close quote. This isn't the first time. Leach once cost Washington State a projected $1.6 million of booster money after tweeting a edited, chopped up video of Barack Obama portraying him in negative light. And so this leads me to Brandon. This is a sticky situation, but in dealing with the situation, did Leach put himself on the hot seat? And do you see, or should there be any discipline concerning Leach's tweet or actions here?
Look, in short, did he put himself on the hot seat? Yeah, probably. And for all of you who didn't see this photo, it's just look it up. Look up Mike Leach news tweet on Google and click on images. It's just a lady, just the oldest lady you can imagine, sitting in probably the oldest chair you can imagine, and wearing the oldest clothes you can imagine, just knitting a noose. And I didn't know that you could knit a noose, so uh, I guess there's that. I don't know. This really shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody who has ever even heard of Mike Leach, heard about some of the things that he's done. I don't. Do I think that he did this in like a malicious manner? No, this is just the goofiest man alive. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The photo alone was just to me it was haunting. It was a little eerie. And this is just a guess, but I feel like that photo has also been used in quite a few. I guess I could call them discriminatory Twitter threads. A couple hateful places on the internet have probably used this photo as well. But if nothing else, I definitely think that this tweet and this photo are just ignorant. You can't go do this kind of thing, man. And you haven't coached one play of football at this university that you just got hired at, and you're gonna go tweet this. I mean, how could you not have the foresight to think, hey, that might be offensive to some people? Um, I don't know. But if there's any sort of spin zone for Mike Leach here, it's that if there's anywhere that he can get away with this move, it's the state of Mississippi. So is he really on the hot seat? Who knows? It is Mississippi State. People forget that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said here for the most part. I mean, let me start off with this. I mean, by no means is what Leach posted acceptable. I mean, especially considering the area and what happened in that area where he coaches
Oh
the
no 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 no.
players.
See, let's go ahead and I'm going to disavow real quick. I didn't mean that in like a hey, let's back Mike Leach
Oh no no no
up
no
way.
yeah
No,
no
I
no
disavow
yeah no
one
no
million percent.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we both do not support Mike. I mean, we're both Mike Leach coaching fans, but this act was unnecessary and just ridiculous. I mean, do I think he meant to be racist? No, I really don't think he's a bad person or racist, but based on the history of what he's tweeted and some of the things he said, I don't think he gets the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's like the kid who keeps, you know, like he keeps shaving the cat. Like, okay, yeah, you might have accidentally did it the first time. Like, yeah, but like, this is like your third or fourth time doing this, dude. Like, you know what you're doing. And to get to the question at hand, is he on the hot seat? I think he has to be, right? Uh, I mean, like you
Yeah,
said, he hasn't even coached a single down. He hasn't even put on a single practice for this school yet.
right,
I
right.
just
No, I
come on,
mean,
man. I mean,
and I get what you're saying, and that's just, I mean, look, as much as I hate to say it, as ignorant as my statement probably is as well, he he coaches at Mississippi State University, Zach, and I don't know. It's to me, if he could get away with this somewhere, that's where it is. It's like there or like Arkansas. Like take your
yeah,
choice. It's one of those.
I totally get what you're saying. Like, I'm taking like a different approach. So I think there's a lot of boosters that are going to be pissed off because I think they're going to be like, there's people that think we support this. I think there's going to be
Yeah.
a pushback. I think there's going to be some pissed off people. I mean, and do I think that like there's some people who are going to be like, oh, people are sensitive and no, like yeah, whatever. There's probably are going to be people like that, but I mean, do I think he's directly on the hot seat? Maybe not. But what it does do to me, and I guess in my eyes, is shorten the amount of slack he's going to get. The fans, the administration, the players. If he gets out to a slow start this season or next, and falls flat 2 years in a row, or even this year, then the fans and the players are going to say, "Hey, his drama and his personality isn't worth the on-field performance. He's not going to have a
No, I
lot of
mean,
time to put it together."
yeah, and you're right. I mean, 1,000,000%. Now I don't know. It's a super sticky situation, and if I'm a booster right now, I'm mad because I mean you have a player in Fabian Lovett who just left, and it may not have been directly because of what Mike Leach tweeted, but it sure did happen. Like
Immediately
like
after.
pretty soon after.
and, and
So
and I don't know if I made it clear or not. He was one of the ones that called Leach out on Twitter.
yeah, um, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty mad if I'm a booster right now because it's not like this kid was this star on the team. But if he leaves, it's probably going to open the door for some other people to leave. It's going to leave some room for scouts who haven't committed yet to be like, oh yeah, I had Mississippi State on my list, but I don't know if I want to go play for that. That's just you don't want to go put yourself in that sort of situation. You don't want to associate yourself with this kind of behavior. And I guess you could give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, I don't think he did this in a malicious way whatsoever. But you have to know where you're at, right? You have to understand your surroundings, and you have to know where you're at. Place and time are very important in life.
1,000%. And to build off your recruiting thing, I mean, I mean, how hard is it to already recruit in Starkville, Mississippi? I
True.
mean, and here's something I don't know if you've thought about, Brandon, and especially people listening. I mean, players at Washington State probably didn't have a lot of high profile options outside of Washington State. But players being recruited to Mississippi State have big time options. I mean, you don't think Nick Saban, Lane Kiffin, Jeremy Pruitt, Kirby Smart, Dan Mullen, Gus Malzahn are telling recruits, hey, do you want to go play with this guy? And they're spinning this in an absolute negative light. I mean, and then you piss off current players. Those recruits stay with those current players on their recruiting visits. So if you don't have them having your back, what do you have? How do you sell the program that you haven't built at all and that is pretty much down in the dumps? How do you sell those players to come join you in Starkville, Mississippi when Mississippi already has a reputation, your program now has a reputation, and now you have a reputation? I mean, how do you look a recruit's family in the eye when you go visit them and they ask you about this? What do you say realistically?
It's the pirate guy, is what I would say. I think
It's the
if
pirate
you've
guy.
seen any of his, yeah, it's this. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know what to say because it's Mike Leach.
It'd be hard. I mean, I
And
get.
Do you
Uh,
think all the blame can fall on him for this though? I mean, like you said, things like
right.
this have come up in the past. You have to think Mississippi State knew what they were getting themselves into, at least to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, I mean, but okay, so here's where I think it becomes like iffy for me is like most of his controversial tweets have involved politics, which I think me, you, all our listeners know you don't need to talk politics when, especially at your job or, when you're such a high profile person like that. Like staying out of politics is probably your best bet when you coach such a diverse group of people. And Mike
Right.
Leach never followed that and he got himself in trouble. But this one's different. This like
Oh
politics,
yeah.
like
Oh
there
yeah.
like there's like two sides. Like, okay, like, oh, if Mike Leach is a Democrat, whatever, that's his beliefs, like whatever. It's like, okay, he's a Republican, yeah, okay. Like, do I love it? No, whatever. Like, we can get over it. There's at least two sides to the argument. Like this one, like I don't even know how you can argue that like it's like, oh, it's really not a big problem. Like it's like, well, no, it's a very, very serious problem. Like, and like you said, like you kind of described the pictures to our listeners. I beg you guys to look it up because it's definitely from a history book somewhere. And
Oh yeah.
it's
No, 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 no.
it's
Like he
black and
knew.
white and it's bad. It's a really, really like even if you were gonna tweet a picture like that, that was not the one you needed to pick.
Yeah. No, you could have. Look, there's probably a list of things you could have tweeted that were not that. I'll start thinking about that list and I'll get back to you on that. But
That
this
list is
may have
long.
been near
That
the
list
bottom.
is
This may have been near the bottom of the list.
if not at the bottom. Like it's tough, guys. But one of my last things I want to address before we move on is the locker room problem. We kind of talk about it, but if he's already began losing players who aren't on campus, so he can't even get the team together and make a formal statement. Like these players are all over the country at home. I mean, and this program's not known for its immense talent, but it's known for effort and toughness, especially the years they won. The thing about Dan Mullen while he was coaching Mississippi State is those kids played hard and they played fast, physical for Dan Mullen because they respected him as a coach. I think I would say 60% of the kids right now are teetering on should we like is this a guy we want to go out there and put it all on the line for?
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Because we both watched Mississippi State play last year. Toward the end of the season, it looked like they were giving up. Like they got smacked by Louisville in the Music City Bowl. They didn't look great
Right.
against LSU in the second half. They didn't look. I mean, they literally only won the Egg Bowl because a dude decided to do a stupid penalty and fake like a dog pissing on a fire hydrant. Like they almost weren't even bowl eligible. I mean, that team did not look like it had great morale, and this can only further hurt them.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to help them. There may be like one specific group of people in this country that it would motivate, but they are not football players
Not
at Mississippi State
not
University.
no, definitely not. And
They might
guys,
they might be located near Starkville, but they are not football players at the university at the Mississippi State University. I can assure you that.
that is a fact. But guys, so I understand. Like, I want to end on this. We both understand that it was most likely a joke, but I think Brandon kind of started hinting at this. But knowing the culture and the time we live in today, this was such an unnecessary risk to take. I mean, I get he likes that risque, borderline, like tip my toe over the line humor, but you're not a stand-up comedian. I mean, you're a college football coach for an SEC program. I mean, was it worth putting your career in jeopardy over a quote funny tweet in your opinion? I mean, we see this constantly with people tweeting or saying dumb things when it's not necessary, aka Antonio Brown. I mean, there's so many people who do this, and Leach is not a bad guy. Neither of us are insinuating that, but I think he needs to like mature and understand the power that his voice carries and choose his words and memes better. And your career is not worth a tweet. I promise you that. And I think Brandon will echo that sentiment to end this segment.
Absolutely. Retweet.
Yeah. That retweet, guys. But we're going to go ahead, move on to our third segment. And this is one we kind of threw in here. This is going to be an interesting one. Some of y'all are going to scoff at it, some of y'all are going to love it. We're here for the people who love it. And it's ESPN has been posting random questions across their social media regarding college football in recent weeks. And one question caught Brandon's eyes earlier today, and we are here to debate it. ESPN asked fans to decide which quarterback they would want leading their team into the 2020 season. As you could imagine, Trevor Lawrence, the obvious, one of the obvious choices out of Clemson, was first on the list, while Justin Fields out of Ohio State was the second choice. To many, many fans' surprise outside of Brandon, their third pick was Qidan Slovis, the freshman standout out of USC. And many people were wondering how he even got into this debate. But we're here to debate it. Brandon, let's break this question down for our listeners out there. And why don't you go ahead and let everyone know which quarterback you would take next year moving into 2020?
Yeah, let's talk about it. So everyone saw the tweet, or at least you should have. ESPN tweeted it out, like Zach said, and it was a tweet that, if you saw it, you thought I composed it, because Qidan Slovis was lumped in with Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence as the best quarterbacks in college football, essentially. So let's go ahead and start with my first question. This is how I like to format my debate. Does Qidan deserve to be in the same conversation as Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields? Probably not. Do I love him any less? Absolutely not. So let's go ahead and list the stats here. And I want you to remember this, Zach. He played 8 games this season. He started for 8 games this season, and he came into the season as a backup and a true freshman. So let me go ahead and read these stats off to you, Zach. So first of all, I'm not going to give you any names. I'm just going to read these pure stats for you. All right, so this is everybody's freshman stats. So we have a 65% completion rate, 3,280 yards, 30 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's quarterback A. Quarterback B, 69% completion rating, or completion percentage, 328 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I'll go ahead and read his sophomore stats because that's not fair. He wasn't a starter that year, which might give it away. 67% completion rating, or percentage, 3,273 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And then we have 72% completion rating, 3,500 yards passing, 30 touchdowns. All those numbers sound pretty good. They sound like great quarterbacks, in my opinion. Well, Qidan Slovis was quarterback C in this example. He threw for 3,500 yards this season, 72% completion percentage, 30 touchdowns in 8 games, Zach. So do I think that I would want him leading my team into this next season? I don't think he'd be a bad choice. Would I prefer him over Trevor Lawrence? No, probably not. But I do think that he is very underrated. I've been saying this since the beginning. So you can run the tapes back. Love Qidan. If you know him, recommend him to the show. We'd love to have him on. That would be Christmas for me, basically. But I think that if you put Qidan Slovis on a team that's coached by Nick Saban or a team that's coached by Dabo Swinney, he's even better than this. And I'm not going to say he's going to be better than Trevor Lawrence, but he'd be up there with him. And I don't think anybody would be scoffing at this post in that example, in that circumstance anyway.
Okay, so I'll join in on that. I think Slovis was the second best freshman quarterback last season.
Shut up. No one wants to hear about Sam Howell. No one wants to hear about it.
Bo Nix was. I'm just playing. It was Sam Howell. But now Slovis was second best, and I think he's only going to improve. And I think he has an extremely, extremely high season, like a ceiling. And I think he's going to be a future NFL quarterback. I'm interested to see how this year's going to be. Is he going to hit that sophomore slump? I don't think he is, but he also doesn't have a lot of help out there at USC. He's kind of on an island out there by himself out in California. And, my pick here isn't because the other choices aren't talented. I just highlighted Qidan Slovis. Justin Fields is going to be a future NFL star. And to me, my pro comp early is Russell Wilson with size, which is terrifying. Because Russell Wilson's really, really good, in case you guys don't already know. But could you imagine if Russell Wilson was 6'3", 220? Yeah, it's called Justin Fields. But I think the answer is easily Trevor Lawrence by a million, a zillion, a trillion. It don't even matter. It's not a debate. It's not a hard question for me. Trevor Lawrence is the best all-around quarterback I have ever personally watched play college football in my life. I mean,
I don't disagree with you.
He has the arm strength, the accuracy, the athleticism, the decision making, the attitude, and he just has that it factor. Like Brandon kind of highlighted. I mean, he's thrown for over 3,200 yards and 30 touchdowns in both his years at Clemson, and only has 12 career interceptions. He started out real rough this year, but I don't. I know me and Brandon highlighted it. Go back and check the tapes. He caught a rhythm late in the season. He was
He caught a
rolling
rhythm in
toward
the
a wrap.
middle of the season, and people just weren't
Yeah.
giving him enough credit for it.
Well, people got caught up in Joe Burrow and Chase Young and Justin Fields and everything, and Trevor and Tua Tagovailoa, and I mean, people just forgot Trevor Lawrence existed. It was playing on the ACC network. That's why people forgot.
Yeah,
No one
yeah.
has it.
Get it together.
Please get rid of it. Get rid of it. But
Absolutely.
he makes the right play every single play, and he shows a maturity that I only see in the best NFL quarterbacks. I mean, just for me, I think Lawrence has a extremely, extremely great opportunity to become the best quarterback to ever play college football. I mean, the greatest quarterback ever in college football in history that's where this guy's going. I mean, uh, he's already a national champion. He needs a Heisman to complete that legacy. But Brandon, what if he wins another national championship this year, or he comes back for a senior year and wins two? He goes down at losing one game in his college career. I mean,
Yeah,
is there an argument
it's.
to keep him out of that conversation?
Oh no, you can't. And I've been on this train for a while now, which I think that anybody who watches college football or has seen Clemson play at all should also be on this train. I mean, there's something special about a kid who, fills in that role as a freshman last year, or I guess 2 seasons ago now. Um, he fills in that role when their starting quarterback is sat on the bench. Someone needs to go in, and he did it, and he did it. I can't even remember how many games he started after that. I think it was like nine.
It,
No, it was nine
it,
regular season games,
yeah.
and then the two playoff games. Um,
Yep.
but anyway, I mean, it's crazy what he did with that amount of games. I mean, he still passed for 3,300 yards. Um, and I mean, seriously, this and I talked about Herschel Walker earlier being a special player to watch. Trevor Lawrence is right. I mean, seriously, and I know it may sound absurd right now, but he is right there. He is right up there with him. And just when you watch this kid, there's something special there. That he has everything in control. He knows what he's doing, and that he can lead that team.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't know about you. I mean, everyone knows where our allegiance lies in terms of college football teams, but I don't think there's a player in college football I'm more excited to watch this season than Trevor Lawrence. I think, uh, I mean, he's coming off his first ever loss as a college football player in the LSU national championship game, and I don't know about you, Brandon. I'm a little scared because sometimes you can get satisfied or get full from sitting where you are, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be hungry. I mean, I
Oh
think
yeah.
he's tired of the disrespect. I mean, I think he's coming for heads next season, and that Clemson team is loaded, guys. I mean, when you get to return Justin Ross and Travis Etienne on that offense, oh my gosh, this is just because people forget how good Etienne is at catching out of the backfield. I mean, it's going to be terrifying, and I'm ecstatic to watch because I mean, have we ever seen a college football player make the national championship every single season he was a starter? I mean,
I
outside of
mean,
the
I
1 year
haven't.
wonders, yeah, outside of like the 1 year wonders like Cam Newton or even I mean, there's been a few
Joe
1 year
Burrow.
wonder. Yeah, Joe Burrow. Well, Joe Burrow played 2 years at LSU, so like I don't count him as like
Okay,
a one
but
year wonder. Like, but it's just I don't think I've ever seen someone with this skill set, and it really surprises me. I don't know if you kind of get this vibe too, Brandon, that people really, really disrespect this kid. And I don't understand where their hatred or what they're not seeing in this kid. I mean, I know a lot of people personally that think this kid is the most overrated player in the country and that he's trash. And it's only because, people love to hate other teams and everything. And it's like, and the narrative after the national championship game was that proved that he was a bust. And I cannot believe
Yeah.
that people looked at a kid going to his second straight national championship game, having an average game as, oh, he's trash. Are we
No,
really?
it's
I
so
mean, Jared Goff went first in the NFL draft after literally. Can you name one good? Can you name one memorable thing that Jared Goff did at Cal?
he went to Cal. That's about it.
Yeah, can you remember one amazing thing Mitch Trubisky did at UNC?
No, I'll be honest with you, not even a little bit. And you know what? Nothing came of him. So
That's true. I mean, Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl, so we're going to keep him in this conversation. But I just
yeah,
think
put
it's
some respect on
ridiculous
his name.
how much hate this guy gets. And we're going to get into it next segment. You know why I think people hate this kid?
Why?
Uh, they hate Dabo Swinney.
They
They
should.
they hate Clemson so much that they're missing the greatest college football player that we've seen in recent history play football. And it's going to be a situation where he leaves for the NFL and those highlights start coming out in the next few years and people are like, man, like, can we believe like how good this guy really, really was? Like, it kind of happened in the NBA when Kevin Durant had to sit out this year. People were like, yo, Kevin Durant was like actually really, really good. Like, in case like everyone
Yeah.
hated him for going to the Warriors, and for like 2 or 3 years there, everyone forgot how good he was. And then once, they didn't make the finals and they lost to Kawhi because KD was out and everything, everyone was like, hey, I don't know if y'all remember this, but KD is really, really good at basketball. And I think that's kind of how
People
it's going to
forget.
be with Trevor Lawrence. And it's going to be like, hey, this kid, this kid changed the game. And I mean, this year was college football's 150th anniversary. When they come out with this CFB 200 poll of the greatest players of all time, Trevor Lawrence might be number one on that list, and that's a bold statement. But to me, if he gets to the national championship this year and wins a Heisman, I don't see how you keep him out of it because he's going to throw for 4,000 yards this year. I have a feeling he's going to throw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, and that'll put him at what 10,000 yards for his career. That's a wrap, guys. There's nothing you can do to
Crap.
argue with me. I mean, Tim Tebow was good, but Trevor Lawrence would put together the greatest 3 year stretch of a quarterback I think we've ever seen.
I'm gonna soundbite that, Zach, where you said, Tim Tebow was good, but yeah, that's a soundbite now.
That's fine. I mean, I'll back it up. Anyone who wants to come on this podcast and debate me who's better between Trevor Lawrence and Tim Tebow, come get that a whooping on this podcast. You're lucky we're clean.
You're lucky.
But dude, they have no idea. But we're gonna go ahead, move on. Our final segment of the day, guys. This is I don't know about you, Brandon. I'm super excited about this segment.
Yeah.
As as most of you already know, college athletes stuck at home due to the recent COVID-19 outbreak. Coaches across the country, strength and conditioning coaches, are trying to make sure their players stay in shape while they're away from the program at home. Nick Saban said this past week in a press conference that his players were equipped with Apple Watches, and he justified this by saying that some players did not have access to workout facilities and players needed to be put on alternative forms of training such as band training, resistance training, etc. Well, as you can imagine, it did not take very long for this to become front page news as personnel across the country were left asking how Bama pulled this off. Coaches such as Ryan Day at Ohio State, Tom Herman at Texas both raised big concerns about the unfair rules across the conferences because conferences such as the Big 12, under their rules, would not permit Apple Watches for athletes. And one of the most outspoken critics, as you probably can imagine, Dabo Swinney. He said that Bama was interpreting the rule in a questionable, unusual way, and that Clemson did not need Apple Watches to know that their players were doing the correct things at home. So, this whole story has brought up many opinions, hot takes, whatever, but we at the Blue Bloods are ready to jump into this. So, Brandon, what is your take on Bama first using Apple Watches, and does it actually break an NCAA rule? Also, and what do you think of Dabo's shot at Saban and the Bama program, because I never thought we'd see Dabo versus Saban Apple Watches edition.
Look, Zach, this, and let me start my argument by saying this. There's a couple things I hate about this story. I hate, first of all, that there's such a big stir over athletes needing to be monitored over quarantine. I feel like you're monitored during the regular season or during the off season right now. Your workouts are usually monitored. Why can't they be monitored during quarantine? I feel like a couple of these rules are open to interpretation. So I hate that they can't that this is such a debate right now. I hate that you're about to make me defend Nick Saban. So I hate you for that, I guess. And goodness, man, I'm just going to continue on this train. I think I hate Dabo Swinney, and I didn't want to. Trust me, I did not want to. I think I like him as a person, as a coach. I don't think I can stand him. So here's where I'll start, and I've already kind of highlighted it. Do I think that this should be against the rules for the NCAA? Absolutely not. I think that if you can monitor your players during the regular off season or during the regular season, you should be able to do that during this time of quarantine, right? There's a lot of things that aren't, going as planned right now for the NCAA. Obviously, there's no spring practices; those have been canceled. Who knows? The season might get delayed or even canceled. God forbid. But there's a lot of things that are changing right now. I mean, for these student athletes, I mean, their classes are online right now. I know mine are. I'm about to graduate. My classes are all online. I guess I'll have my diploma like emailed to me or whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are just changing right now. I feel like these rules are made to be able to interpret. That's kind of what rules are, right? I mean, they're not always black and white. There's always something to interpret. And how do I feel about this shot from Dabo Swinney? Good God, I don't know. I really do think I hate him. There's no reason. I think here's the reason why I hate him. I think he's a fraud. I'll say it. I think he's a fraud.
I
I
think you
think he
should
likes to get
expand on
people.
that.
I think, yeah, I will expand on it. I was getting there. He's a fraud. He likes to get people hyped up just for nothing. Would this be a storyline any other time if this wasn't going on? If there were anything else for Dabo Swinney to get upset about right now, I would have to believe he would probably be upset about it because he was just upset about literally every single thing during the regular season this year. Am I wrong about that? He was upset about everything. I mean, we could go on. I can go on a tangent about that, but I'll hold myself back. I'll be civilized. I think he stirs things up to get his players motivated, to get himself motivated. I don't know what it is, but he needs to be the victim. He always needs to have himself and the players as the victim, so they can play better. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm not him, so I couldn't really tell you. Um, I hate that he had to go on this tangent. He had to make this comment about Nick Saban. And I really hate that I have to defend him right now. I really hate that I have to defend Coach Saban. But I don't think what he's doing is wrong. I think that is absolutely crazy for somebody to get upset about a coach wanting to monitor his players' workouts.
So, can I read you the rule and you let me
Yeah,
know like
read
how
it to
you
me. I'll let you
Okay.
know.
So the rule says that teams may not supervise, conduct, or advise workouts or report voluntary workouts or sports activities to institutional coaches or staff members. Which
Whatever.
means
Rules are
what
meant to be
like
broken.
which means like during the season, if you work out outside like the university or even during the off season or during the season, you cannot report that to coaches and they cannot track you using anything.
I'm still going to stand by my word here because, I mean, my argument holds up. I think that this is a different circumstance and that there should be, I don't think that this rule is fair. These players don't have the opportunity to work out at team facilities right now, do they? So I think
No,
I
that they
think that
can't.
coaches should still have the same opportunity to monitor like regular workouts like they would during the off season. I think that's warranted.
So, well, like, I'm gonna have to play devil's advocate here because I think we're taking different sides to this argument. What about schools whose conferences have banned them from doing this? And like, I mean, and for the sole purpose of like schools have different budgets. So let's say a school like Memphis can't afford to give all their athletes Apple Watches, but a school like Texas or Alabama can't afford to give their athletes across sports access to Apple Watches and monitor data, et cetera, et cetera. How do you control for the competition, I guess, advantage that you're giving these bigger schools that bring in more money?
I don't think it's an advantage necessarily. I mean, these programs are allowed to build uh, bigger, better facilities than these smaller schools, right? I mean, isn't that an unfair advantage? I mean,
I mean, debatable.
it's
I
the
mean, you
same.
still
It's the
have
same.
you just have newer equipment or more room. I mean, they still have basically the same equipment.
Okay, well, what about these programs that are building like these full service nutrition bars? Do you really, in your heart of hearts, think that the University of Southern Mississippi has a full service nutrition bar in their facilities?
Probably not. Probably
Yeah, that's what
absolutely
I'm
not.
saying. That's what I'm saying. And so, do you think that these smaller schools have uh, huge film rooms where it's basically a movie theater? No, but these bigger programs do. That would also be an unfair advantage according to this argument. It's just to me, if you got it, why not take full advantage of it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that if you have it, take advantage of it. But if certain schools aren't allowed to have it, then how come they get to have it? Texas can't. You don't think Texas and Oklahoma have the money to do this? Ohio State has the money to do this, but their conference won't allow them.
Well, get a new
So,
conference. Your conference sucks. This is why the SEC is the greatest.
fair enough. I mean, I think the NCAA is about to be put to the test here. Personally, I mean, either decision, whether they allow it or they decide to stop it, is going to put them in hot water with somebody in the country. I mean, but a decision is going to have to be made very soon. And I do not think Bama fans are going to like it because here's why. I don't think the NCAA is going to alienate schools without the funds to compete like this. So therefore, Bama also may be in hot water for not seeking approval from the NCAA first. And here's why I think they're going to take other school sides over Bama. One, they're already self-conscious that there's this perception of SEC bias, especially Alabama bias. Two, it's Alabama and maybe a handful of SEC schools versus the entire country. So
Well,
I
we can
think the
take them.
NCAA is. I think they probably could take them, but I think the NCAA is going to play. Is going to gamble with the odds here, and
They don't gambling. So
yeah, they don't allow gambling, but they're going to gamble. They don't follow their own rules, but
that's facts.
according to their rule, for me, the way I interpret it is, buying all your players' Apple Watches to monitor, as Saban would say, health related data sounds a lot like supervising or conducting workouts and reporting those workouts to coaches and staff members, which you're not allowed to do in season or out of season. That sounds
Wow.
like it's in bounds for an NCAA rule violation, and I understand why other coaches are upset at this. I mean, yes, you and the people who support this are completely correct by saying this is a very unique time and rules can be bent to accommodate. But if they're going to be bent, the NCAA needs to step in and say every school that can do this, do it. Conferences you cannot step in. They have to allow it as like an open market thing instead of just being like, oh well, sorry. It's like a teacher not allowing their class to go to recess, even though the school schedule is it's recess. Like Bama's out there playing on the playground, but Texas is up locked in the room because the teacher was pissed at so and so. I mean,
Dude, I've had so many teachers do that. That
that's
hits too
weak,
close to
right? Though
home. I get what you're
it's
saying. Yeah, I get what
weak.
you're saying.
It's weak. I mean, it's just I don't know. So yes, there's going to be D1 schools who struggle to supply athletes with this type of technology, which raises the concerns of an unfair advantage for higher income schools. But what if the rule says like, oh, you can get like this? There's other health related monitors outside of Apple Watches. They don't need all the technology to text. I mean, you could get a cheap Fitbit for under $100 rather than a $300 Apple Watch. I mean, there's options here where the NCAA can regulate what they can have. Um, but they're going to have to act fast. And here's why. Because how do you stop it once it becomes rampant? You don't think now Saban said this that schools in the SEC like Georgia, Auburn, Florida, LSU that have these funds, Texas A&M, aren't shipping Apple Watches to everybody right this second?
Well, they are.
Coach O is in Walmart right now buying every Apple Watch in every single Walmart in Baton Rouge right now.
Oh, yeah,
And
well,
and
probably.
and the thing is, like, so once those players have access to those Apple Watches, how do you? So let's say the NCAA doesn't allow it. How do you monitor that? I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
there's long-standing rules that the NCAA's put in place that get violated every time. If there's a rule that if they insert this rule, I mean, all that's going to do is make teams become sneakier. And for me, I smell trouble here. Whether it be for the NCAA, Bama, other schools, someone's going to get caught doing something sketchy. And I think this is going to get messy and contentious. And I don't think the comments from coaches are over. Um, and to get to the Swinney thing, um, I think it was a petty shot. I understand what he was saying. I think we both get if the Key and Peele sketch where it was like they had Obama's translator where it was like I forgot what he called it, but
it's
you
anger
know
translator.
yeah, his anger translator. If Sweeney had an anger translator, we all know what would have been said. And
Oh yeah.
he's suggesting Saban can't trust his players to work out by themselves without his iron thumb because the perception is Sweeney's this laid back, player friendly guy, while Saban's this dictator, has everyone on a short leash, like he's overruling his program. So I think this further makes this comparison happen. And what I get from it? I get a sense of frustration from Dabo Swinney from this. And let me explain. I'll get your opinion on it. But he takes his team to the playoffs almost every single season in recent history. And he competes with the top schools from these other big conferences, but people always say, "Oh, they don't play nobody. They this, they that." I think he just feels like they're not getting any respect, and so I think he's tired of it. I think, like you said, he has that chip on his shoulder where any chance he can get, he's gonna take a jab at those other teams, and to that way, like he gets his team in the news because he's fighting for that respect. And I feel like, yeah, they've won what, two national championships, been to four now, and been to multiple playoffs. And just, I really think he's tired of this SEC Bama narrative, which is why he has it out for Alabama right now. He wants to bring attention to what he's doing in Clemson, how they've been so successful. I mean, I think in his eyes, he sees Bama doing that. Bama doing this is trying to gain an advantage over Clemson because Dabo Swinney feels in his heart that they cannot beat that Clemson team. And I think he is going to take any chance to get in Saban's head, any chance to take a shot because he thinks that he's a better coach than Nick Saban, and he thinks that his program is better than what Saban has right now at Bama.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, and I can definitely see that. But that does not change the fact that I think that Dabo Swinney is a punk and a fraud.
You just say a punk?
He's
How are you going
punk.
to call Dabo Swinney a punk?
Well, I mean, cheap shots, you know? He can take a cheap shot, I can take one.
What? I mean,
He's a
okay,
punk.
so as an LSU fan, you're not mad at all that Bama's doing this?
I mean, listen, if I had any doubt in my mind that LSU wasn't doing this, I would probably be pissed. But
Ooh, I like that. I like that take.
yeah, I can't be hypocritical here. I think that there's a lot of programs probably doing the same exact thing right now. And I think that a lot of SEC programs are doing it. I think that a lot of programs that aren't supposed to be doing it because of their conference guidelines are probably also doing it, but they didn't. Their head coach didn't come out and blatantly say, "Hey, yeah, we're doing this thing that might violate NCAA rules," and so
I
that's
like
why they're
that.
not in hot water
You know,
right now.
you
Yeah,
know what I think Coach O does? I think he
what's that?
sends crawfish to every player's family, and it's like a king cake from Mardi Gras in Mobile or New Orleans,
Yeah.
wherever king cakes. I feel like it's a crawfish, and when you bite into the head, it's like a fortune cookie, and it has like a little sheet of paper with the workout on it. And Coach O's like, "Listen, I work out, so I can still whoop you. You know what?" He was like, "You better be
Well, I
doing these
mean,
workouts."
he
And every
ties
pound,
the stack together with a
exactly.
workout list. Yeah.
Exactly. Like every pound of crawfish comes with a week's worth of workouts, and that's how Coach O's doing it. He don't need Apple Watches. Coach O's creative. He just calls his boy from the restaurant crawfish for everybody. And, he sent some to Joe Burrow just to make sure he's cool for the NFL draft. And
Oh yeah. Good.
to end this episode off, I want to address one just random topic real quick. Brandon, I don't know about you, so the NFL draft is going to be virtual this year, and I
Good.
don't know about you. Over under. Well, I guess not over under. True or false? Which one do you think it is? Coach O is going to find a way to be at Joe Burrow's house for the NFL draft party.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir. He will. He'll be there.
Okay.
I don't know how. There's
On
plenty of stay at home. Listen, I'm in Louisiana right now. There are plenty of stay at home. Like you have to stay at home here. Like if you're on the road, like they have police officers waiting to pull you over. There's not necessarily checkpoints right now, but there could be in the future. And a lot of states are like, hey, you're from Louisiana. Guess what? You have to quarantine yourself for a few days before you can even do anything here. He's going to find a way to be there. I don't know how. He's Coach O. He has special powers.
I mean, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed are you going to be if he's not there?
Oh, that's a full 10. Well,
that's easily a full 10, right?
It depends on what he's doing. There's a list of 3 things that he can be doing that would make me not disappointed. The first thing is he's at home, but he made himself a ham sandwich, as he would call it. He could do that. He could be in Death Valley watching the virtual draft on the Jumbotron, or he could be alligator hunting, and I'd be okay with it.
Bro, if he's watching the draft in Death Valley by himself, legend. Okay, if you're watching the virtual draft in Death Valley, are you using the 2 smaller screens in the one end zone, or are you going to use the one big one?
You're using the big one. What are you even talking about right now?
I'm about to say there's one in one part of the end zone that's bigger.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
No. You have to use the big one.
Okay. I see. I'll think about using the 2 smaller ones because then you can like you have that welcome to Death Valley lighting up right in between. Just looks nasty.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I mean, I love Death Valley, guys. I hate Death Valley, but at the same time, I love it as a fan. It is one of the coolest, nicest stadiums ever. If you can get down to Baton Rouge, skip the September games. If I have not reached you guys on anything on this podcast ever, do not go. Let this be the one thing. Do not go to Death Valley in September for a day game because you will want to die. It is so unbearably hot. And those little 4-year-olds that are screaming tiger bait at you, you just want to feed them to the tiger, and makes you so upset, especially after Leonard Fournette ends your defense's life. You're just not for it. It's not a fun time. Do not 0 out of 10 recommend. If you're going as a neutral fan, 10 out of 10 recommend. There's going to be a Cajun guy on your right who offers you crawfish. Take it because it'll be the best crawfish you've ever eaten in your life. And I guarantee
Jambalaya, pastalaya.
Whatever you want.
Everything. All the
whatever you want. Yeah. But yeah, guys, we'll end the episode off on that nice tangent. I had a few questions for Brandon I had to get off of there. But that is a wrap here. Social media polls still going, guys. You guys have been voting for weeks now. We'll find out who the greatest player of all time is this afternoon. So shout out to you guys for voting all on that. Instagram at @the_Blue Bloods, Facebook at the Blue Bloods Pod, Twitter at @the__ Blue Bloods. This is our first episode since it happened, but your boys are moving up in the world. Guest appearance on a podcast, actually. I know it surprised both of us, but if you want to catch me debating another podcast from the Worst Take Network, go check out the Sideline Take podcast. You can find the link on our Twitter. We debate the biggest NFL draft bust of all time. Shout out to them for having me on there, and we hope to have them on here one day. But stay tuned. Big announcements coming, more content coming. You guys subscribe, rate the podcast, listen, share it with everyone. You guys are the best listeners out there. But until next time, we out.